Welcome to the special program remembering the life of late President Professor Bingu wa Mutharika. My name is Mike Mkwala, and in the program today I'm joined by a former Minister of Finance, Economic Planning and Development, Honorable Gudo Gondwe. You were one of the friends of the late President Ngwazi, Professor Bingu wa Mutharika. Maybe first and foremost, how did you know him?
Well, I would say since the late 50s, when he was at Denza, I was at Bladder Secondary School. He was a class ahead of me at Denza. And by the time I went to Denza myself, he left and was at university. So I would say that I've known him for quite a long time. And in between times, when he used to come from holidays, somehow we met. And I remember professionally we used to argue a lot. And really I grew to respect his arguments and got to know that I was dealing with a highly intelligent person. And one who knew his country, one who was ambitious for his country, and who wanted to contribute to the development of his country. So I knew quite well.
We understand you happened to work together at some point.
In the 1962, when I was at Makerere University in Uganda, Bingu came to Makerere also as a civil servant to do some of these short courses. I think he was there for 6 months or so. And we happened to have to share halls of residence, and we happened to be very close at the university in Makerere. So I've known him professionally also for a long time, yes.
How would you describe his political life since he started?
A number of people will disagree with you that I'm also a politician. They think that I am more of a technical person than a politician, but nevertheless, I was in the political game. In 2003, long before the election, long before I knew he was going to be a candidate, we happened to have been having lunch together, and he was telling me that should he be president, he would like me to join him, and what he would like to do is to make first and foremost, before the end of his first term, we should get Malawi out of the least developed countries in the world. That was his first ambition, that Malawi should not be one of the 5 least developed countries. We must get out of that. And we discussed how we were going to do it. He was quite clear what he was going to do, and he wanted me to follow him very, very closely in administering that change. So we discussed a number of things about how the country could be developed.
When he started leading the country, did he manage to do what his vision was?
Oh yes, he did. Don't forget that for the first time during his period, Malawi attained a very high growth rate. I think close to about 10% actually, and was the highest. They had achieved the highest growth in Africa, and second highest in the world. That was during Bingu's time. So he did achieve a lot. That's number one. Number two, he was tired of looking at television and where they were showing Malawian babies very, very malnourished, with running noses and so forth. He was fed up. I must say, so was I, fed up, and we thought that should stop. And so we wanted we thought one reason is that the country was always having famines. People were always hungry. And the reason is that people were not producing enough maize, enough staple food, and that we were going to change that by introducing now you call it FISP, but introducing a fertilizer subsidy. And he asked me to run that. Although I was in the treasury, he said that I should run it because I understood how it should be run. He told me to go to the World Bank and argue the case for subsidies. He gave me the argumentation that I should use, and I agreed with him wholeheartedly, and I used it, and we managed to convince the World Bank, in fact, that subsidies of fertilizers were very necessary in Malawi. People now would laugh at this, but it was a very tall order to convince the World Bank that subsidies, after they asked us to withdraw it in 1962, during Kamuzu Banda's time, by the way, subsidies were withdrawn, but Bingu managed to put it back together. Mm-hmm. That's quite an achievement. At that time, it was quite an achievement.
We hear you was an economist. Economically, how did you look at his performance?
Only an accomplished economist would do that. Not only an economist, but an original economic thinker. He was not led by donors what to do. A number of policies in Africa these days, economic policies, are dictated to us by either the IMF or by the World Bank. That was also in Bingu's time. He thought about things himself. He did things which he thought that would be helpful to his country, regardless of whether the donors liked it or not. You should remember that in a number of cases, what we do now here, it would be similar to what they're doing in Zambia, what they're doing in Tanzania, what they're doing everywhere, because all of us are following what the IMF and the World Bank is asking us to do. Not in Bingu's time in Malawi. So that's a very, very important thing. He was an economist, not only an economist, but an original economic thinker. I got the impression that Bingu knew he was going to be president one day. And he had very, very, very established views on how to introduce his economic thinking. He was very good at that. And he had a lot of arguments, some of them, I was brought up by the IMF and the World Bank, you see, but in his case, even for me, I could understand that some of the ideas that he had were much more superior than the ideas that the World Bank and the IMF had.
If you look at the smallholder farmers here, using a hoe, I mean, a poor woman with a baby on her back, struggling the whole day, and she cannot afford to buy improved seeds. She cannot afford to buy fertilizers. In fact, she cannot even afford to buy small, improved agricultural implements other than a hoe. And then you come and say, that woman does not need subsidy. Then you take the farmers in Europe and North America with modern tractors, computerized, with music, some of them I understand even air conditioning. You say they need subsidy, and this woman doesn't. And I said, no, you're not serious. So I said, with or without your support, I'll go ahead and do it anyway. But I had, if you like, what might be an exit point. I said, look, if within 3 years I'm not able to feed my people with that subsidy program, then come and you can criticize me, we discuss. We were successful, and we're right. And I think the international community are now beginning to say, well, maybe he was right after all. Of course, whether they want to come open and say, yes, bravo, Bingu, you have done well, that's a different matter.
Looking at the many things that he managed to do for the country, how should Malawians remember him?
One, the fact that he actually helped or forged ahead to get Malawi out of a cocoon of 5 least developed countries in the world. For the first time we got out of that. You should remember him for attaining the highest growth rate, economic growth rate in Africa. You should remember him about that. For attaining the second highest growth rate in the world. You should remember him for that. And for introducing a number of very, very key issues in education, for the youth programs. You should remember him a number of things. He was a very, very deep thinker, but did not show off perhaps as much as he knew. But when he did come out with something that he wanted done, it worked and it produced results. That was Bingu.
As we conclude, you should have been very close to Bingu. What did he like?
I think that he was a very studious person. He read a lot. I used to see him almost on a daily basis. And one of the things that we did was for him to ask me whether I'd read such and such a book. Please go and open it up. On page so you're going to find this and that and so forth. He did that very, very, very often. So he was a studious person. He wrote books, you know. He's written a very big book on development, which is acclaimed now as a textbook in a number of universities. He did that. And he was a man who really, really was very studious and very original thinker. He was, above all, a thinker. Did you see the mausoleum that he has at Data for his burial and his burial of his wife? He designed that himself. Some people think that it's not true. I was there when some of it he was doing it. He was doing it himself. Now you get a man who was a very highly placed economist, but also one who dabbled in the architectural work. Not many people of that type are around anymore. It used to be the case probably in 19th century Britain. But lately, no, we don't have as much original thinkers as this man was. And he did not show off. There are some people who say, I am dreaming of doing this and that and so forth. He didn't say what he was dreaming, but he just did it.
What should the younger generation learn from him?
This preoccupation by people thinking that they were going to have a better life without working for it has got to change. Otherwise, this is what corruption starts corruption. This is people do not really work hard to add to the development of their country, but at the same time they expect a lot from their countries. The problem we're having now is just this. Everybody wants to have a better life, and the political problems we have now are all based on the fact that we think that politics is where you are going to get salvation, each one of us. This has got to change. If we don't change that, you can have a number of re-elections in the world. This country is not going to change. You have to be looking at fundamentals.
Thank you so much, Honorable Gudu Gondwe, for granting us an interview to share more on the life of the late President Ngwazi, Professor Bingu wa Mutharika. By the way, the Ngwazi name, how did it come?
I was not here. I was in Washington at the time. He just called me one time to say, do you know, I'm Ngwazi now. I think that Mberwa thought that with the economic success that we've been having, where the people now could eat, and we didn't have babies being shown on television. That's a big, big thing, and it shows that he was a Gwazi. So the Gwazi it's an earned thing as far as he was concerned. It's because he put this economy on the right footing that he was given this Gwazi-ship. I talked to Mberwa myself. Mberwa happened to be also a close friend of mine. The Gwazi would not like me to say that, but I was very close to Mberwa. We attended a lot of meetings together. And that's what he said. Yeah. So it's an earned thing. This one, I think you should tell him that he earned the Gwazi. That's what I told you.
Well, that was Honorable Gudo Gondwe, the former Minister of Finance, and he is the current Vice President of the DPP in the Northern Region. My name is Mike Nkwala. Actually, he was explaining more on the legacy of the late President Professor Bingu wa Mutharika.